Whether you like CPF or you hate CPF, everybody universally agreed, and I call it, that CPF is a complexity monster. Having this 2.5% guarantee on the OA is a wonderful thing that individual CPF members can harness it to a leverage, formula-driven. You want it, you take it. You don't want it, you can take it and invest. So for instance, you keep your costs down, the market does reward you. Retirement ready as soon as possible, then decide for yourself what is the kind of life that you want to live, and people wanted to have this assurance of that they get the money payout for as long as they live.
It's a little bit, how do you manage extra money that's not in CPF? How do you do it? Welcome back to Chills with TFC. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and today we are in studio with another interesting story. I know I've been going on a whole kind of rampage of trying to find interesting stories to come on the show to talk about how they manage their money, and I am quite excited to have this guy today because it wasn't an easy invite. Ask me a lot of questions. I feel like before we start, I want to invite very, very serious. But I have gotten him on the show, I think, on a few levels. One is because he went through the whole process when CPF was updating themselves. I would say it's updating, right, to stay relevant. And quite a lot of things happened, right, in the past decade. And more importantly, I think even after, quote-unquote, retiring, he has been quite active. I see doing programs, a lot of stuff. So I was like, oh, this is an interesting guy. So I wanted to ask him on the show to talk a little bit about how he do what he do, how he got here, how he plans his finances and all that good stuff. So I'm in studio with Heng. Yes, could you introduce yourself for our audience that don't know you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Heng. Happy to be here with Reggie. So in brief, I was a boring public officer for about 30 years of my life. The first 12 years with 4 ministries doing policy work, and then next 18 years in the CPF board, doing a lot of stuff. CPF is always changing. And about 4 years ago, I pivoted and I left public service. So now I do a portfolio of things. For one,
So you are the portfolio career now.
a career in the studio as well. So for one, I went back to school. I pursue a part-time master's in counselling.
Really?
I finished that, and I'm now practicing as a counsellor. I also run my church charity. We run programs for children, youth, and seniors. And I do some financial training. Yeah, these are some of my main preoccupation, and I do a lot of other things.
Maybe before I talk a little bit more about you, just curious, like why do you do a master's in counselling, after retiring from public service?
Counselling is a very good skill to have, and a very difficult skill. And personally, I suppose I describe myself quite a typical guy that struggle with feelings and emotions. So I challenged myself to try to improve in this area. And I thought, what better way to improve than trying to help people manage their feelings and emotion. And then in the process, maybe I can also improve myself.
I love the bureaucrat energy. What better way? Let's take a master's. It's a timely, change in how society has moved, and more people are looking at, the emotions, the person as a whole, and that whole thing, the healing process, lah. Yeah. So
I would say that is my that's how I feel, because right after, around that time when I take my master's, of course, it was around that COVID time, and then the whole issue of mental health suddenly become a worldwide phenomenon. So I think I'm in a sunrise industry.
Forever relevant, right? Yeah. So I think you were being humble, right? Where before you left CPF, you were the Deputy CEO, of the services division, right? So maybe just give me a bit more color, like, because I think it's fair to say lifelong public servant, but you stay in CPF for 18 years. So CPF must mean something, right? Because you could have just rotate, right? I mean, it's not too difficult for high-performing public servants to just move around, So why stay so long? What were you doing there? and all that, yeah.
Before I joined CPF, so I said I was in a 4 ministry posting in the first 12 years of my life in the civil service. Fourth posting was in the Ministry of Manpower, and then I do quite a few things over there. But one of the things in my portfolio was CPF policies. So that was then I started to understand a bit more about this CPF and its importance in so many Singaporeans' life. And I also grew interested in it. My money is there as well. So then I make, in a sense, a first major pivot in my career to join CPF. And then, so end up spending 18 years in the CPF. CPF is forever changing. Many policies keep changing. That gives us a lot of work to do. We never worry about running out of job. And it's very fulfilling, very meaningful because it's intended to be the foundation for Singaporeans' finances. And I count myself fortunate that in 18 years, I was as a Deputy CEO, I was responsible for implementing 3 life schemes, which today become the cornerstone of Singaporeans' retirement: CPF Life, MediShield Life, and CareShield Life. But having said that, I think CPF suffer from a big problem. Whether you like CPF or you hate CPF, everybody universally agreed, and I call it that CPF is a complexity monster. It's just very complicated, many things in it, so many people get confused. I would roughly say there are 3 groups of people in our midst, Singaporeans. The first group, totally confused with CPF, cannot make sense of it, just angry that every month 20% of their money goes into this thing, and then they don't know what it is. So they basically chuck it aside and then try to build their own financial house on its own. So the picture to me is like you have an unfinished construction project, only the foundation, the pillars, and so of course it looks very ugly. And then you try to build your own house, your own financial house. But of course, if you build it from scratch, then it's very expensive. You got to build a foundation, all that, right? And then you build your own house. So that's one group of people. Another group of people, they try to build CPF as a foundation. The government says so they also try it. But they don't understand it. They hearsay, something is true, something is false. So based on rumors and all that, so they make it not the best decision, make wrong decisions. So they end up the house is also suboptimal. Then of course the third group, probably a small group who understand and knows the CPF, and then can make the good decisions for themselves based on the CPF, building on the CPF foundation. So in a sense, this is an ideal scenario, and I hope that I'll be able to help more people to get into this third group. Then I think it'll be the best way for them to build their finances in Singapore.
And I think our audience fall into the third group,
okay.
or they would like to be in the third group, right? So I think it's great that you are on the show. I will stress test your system. Because one thing is to set policy for the nation, and how you practice on your own. I think that's also important, right? So let's see what is considered optimal on a personal practice level. But since you're here, I do want to hear a little bit more about the 3 life schemes, right? Because I think it's quite groundbreaking. Time before the life schemes, you are pretty much on your own, right? However much you save is whatever it is, and of course there's the employer pay a bit, you pay a bit, but actually net, employers also look at it from a salary package in totality. So you're very much, kind of building your own retirement on your own, right? But when the life schemes were rolled out, right, this is a risk pooling structure. It's a very big change from how it was. That's a fair statement, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
Yeah. So help me understand, what was the kind of viewpoint, right? Why did we move down this path? 10 plus years since, all these life policies are out. do you think that they are still relevant? Because nowadays there's also a lot of discussion about other, like integrated shield plans which are built on the life policies. So maybe give me a bit of that color. Like, this is not CPF point of view. Chin Heng has left. But I just wanted to since you're on the show, maybe share with us a little bit on that front.
Start with CPF Life. Of course, it's meant for retirement to give people income for life. The idea is not new. Basic idea is to have annuities, and annuities is a well-known retirement product. And even in the Singapore context, it has been mooted as far back as in the 80s. But I suppose CPF, being Singaporeans' money, is a very sensitive topic, so it's not easy for the government to move on this policy front. And it's only until 2009 that the CPF Life was introduced as a optional voluntary scheme, and then from 2013 become compulsory for those who are born in 1958 or later. So I remember the early days in around 2009, 2010, when you're trying to introduce a scheme and go around and talk to people, the prevalent viewpoint of people is they don't believe that they would live that long. That's what the government say. They'll tell you, hey, look at the obituary in the newspaper, 60 years, 70 years, die already. Where got the 20 years or 30 years of retirement? So it's also a mindset shift that we have to try to bring across to Singaporeans. And I think that today we have come a long way, and people have hoisted in the idea that, hey, actually they live longer than their parents or the grandparents, and the CPF Life has actually been well received, and people wanted to have this assurance of that they get the monthly payout for as long as they live. Then next to MediShield Life, which is for hospitalization insurance, and was introduced in 2015. So before that, we already have a MediShield, but that operates on the opt-out basis. You are covered, but you cannot opt out. Then from 2015, it became universal. As long as you're Singaporean, you're a citizen or PR, you are covered, right? And that actually is a big mindset shift on the part of the government to make it universal. And I think that's a very good. While the previous MediShield covered the majority of people, but people who are uninsurable, babies born with congenital illnesses and all that cannot be covered. So that's a big problem. So with that universality of the MediShield Life, then everybody is covered. And it means basically the society must come together and say that, yeah, this is something we collectively will, in a sense, take care of one another. So it's a very good thing. But of course, MediShield Life caters only to B2C class ward. I mean, it covers a higher class ward, but the proportion of the bill it covers is not so much. So if you are looking to this higher class ward, you got to get the integrated shield plan. And then that's when all the, I suppose, the angst is coming in. Premiums are increasing, and then everybody is...
the increase quite serious, eh?
Oh, yeah.
The riders are even worse.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I also can't pay. Just also read recently, even the Minister for Health has also come out to give a rather candid view of the system. Healthcare is a very emotive thing that is our life may be at stake. So we always wanted to have the best care and most greatest flexibility if we can have. So recently, my wife and I were also discussing, hey, do we have to keep paying all this premium and stomach all these premium increases that never seem to have an end in sight, or should we consider like maybe downgrading?
And in retrospect, you still think that it's the correct move, right? Because our understanding, or at least my understanding, is that the probability of you using the plans increase as time goes along, right? So actually, a lot of people are paying all the way until a point where you actually need it, right? And then the risk comes at the back, right? So, but the it's an expo curve, right? So the premium also comes at the back, right? The big premiums come at the back. I think that's kind of why people think like, okay, maybe it's time to drop it. You've kind of covered your front part already. You have managed the kind of outsized risk in terms of a financial impact when you're in your prime earning years, right? And then now you're at a point where you're not keeping up with that type of salary anymore. Maybe it's a good thing to drop from a rider standpoint. I wanted to hear maybe a little bit into how you and your wife are talking about the riders and your IP plans. How are you thinking about it? And what made you decide that, okay, we'll hold on for a little longer? Maybe can you highlight that part?
Yeah, so Yeah, so we just do some comparison. Today we have a private hospital IP with a rider. Then we consult a financial planner, and then we look at some of the premium, and we just look at it subtly. If we were to say drop the rider and downgrade to a private hospital, A class, wow, the drop in the premiums astounding. So that becomes very attractive. And so if you ask me, I personally, actually, I don't mind going to a public hospital if I need the hospitalization. We value our privacy, so perhaps I prefer to say the A-class ward rather than share beds with other people. But at the same time, it's that you don't know what you don't know. It's that flexibility that if you drop that private hospital coverage, and then you're confined to the government hospital, and then if you need it, then you wonder, wow, what if, right? What if the beds are crowded? You can't get in, and then wow, your health is at stake. So it's a very angsty time trying to figure this out. And at the moment, we look at the premiums. We don't like what we are paying, but it's still manageable. So we probably think that, hey, let's not rush into this because it's easier to downgrade. It's difficult to upgrade in terms of hospital coverage. So we say, give ourselves a couple more years until we cross over to the next age group. And then once you cross the next group, the premiums jump again. Right? So yeah, with wait and see. That's current thinking. So the third one is CareShield Life. So this one, I remember the then Prime Minister and now the Senior Minister say this is most difficult to sell. So this is something which most people generally don't think of such things happening. It's about not being able to do activities of daily living or ADL. So then if you're unable to, then there's this payout for you. So that's essentially what CareShield Life provides. And like MediShield Life, it has gone universal. So that was implemented from 2020. So these three life scheme forms a cornerstone of the Singaporeans' retirement. So it'll be very good for Singaporeans to build their finances around these core schemes.
Would you say like the private product would be like a disability insurance, when you're comparing it with CareShield Life? How is it different,
Many different insurance products out there. CareShield Life or the predecessor ElderShield, the benefits kick in if you're unable to do activities of daily living, like being able to shower by yourself, walk by yourself, and so on. Whereas disability insurance also have different forms. Most common form is if you're unable to work, whether it's in your previous vocation or any vocation, then there's a benefit comes in. So slightly different. You may still be able to do activities of daily living, but you may not be able to work. So there's some overlap, but it's not quite the same.
So you would say currently there are no private products that will compare with CareShield Life, right? Essentially.
The comparable one will be the ElderShield, which in a sense is the earlier versions. ElderShield started as far back as I think early 2000. Then there's ElderShield 300, there's ElderShield 400. Then now it become CareShield Life. Similar to MediShield, they got MediShield to MediShield Life. MediShield is operated on opt-out. MediShield Life is universal. So likewise, ElderShield was operated on an opt-out basis. It's administered by the private insurance company, although you can use your CPF MediSave to pay the premium. And then when the government improved the scheme to become CareShield Life, it become universal.
Let's talk a little bit about how you build your finances, especially with CPF as a bedrock. I mean, that's what you say, right? So I expect you to be doing the same thing, right? So maybe give me a bit of color, right? How do you go about doing this? Plan your finances, with CPF in mind. Yeah, just walk us through that process.
CPF, Singapore government bonds, index funds in the main. I do have some money in a hedge fund. So I do think about the finances, try to understand it, but this and also understand the CPF. But certainly when you I work in the Ministry of Manpower and got involved in the policy, then I see, CPF is not perfect, but there's a lot of good things about it. Very good for Singaporeans to build their finances on it. So, for one, you have the special account that have been paying a minimum 4% per annum for a couple of decades already. So over time, government allows special accounts to be invested. Many industry experts feel that it is a good idea to just leave your special account untouched and then let it earn 4% per annum, risk-free, not easy at all to get it. So I also subscribe to this view. So where my SA pot is concerned, I try to max cut out. Where I can, I will fill it up. And then now CPF tell me, cannot, no more.
You max out already, you cannot already.
Ordinary account is quite a different story. Ordinary account pegged to the more short-term rates with a 2.5% guarantee. So, of course, for most people, then they use the OA for housing. So if you still have a mortgage and then you use it, then that's the predominant use. If you have a less of need of it or you have fully paid up the house, then you can consider investing your OA, exposing it to some market risk with the hope of getting long-term return. And generally, it should not be too difficult to beat the 2.5% hurdle rate. Having this 2.5% guarantee on the OA is a wonderful thing that individual CPF members can harness it to a leverage. Because it's there and it's formula driven. So you want it, you take it. You don't want it, you can take it out. You can take it and invest. So for instance, you just look at it. You can also invest your OA inside the treasury bills, which these days are quite popular. So when the treasury bill rates are higher than the 2.5%, recent years can go up to 3 or even 4%. Then you take it out and invest in a treasury bill. When the rates are below 2.5 like currently, then you just bring it back to the OA. So you had the leverage to do this.
That part I understand, right? Where whether is it the Singapore government bonds, or some of the T-bills, you move out and then you bring it back in, right? So that one is quite a simple, low risk arbitrage, right? And then there's the other part where it's the market risk, right? Where even CPF own report come out say most people don't make as much, when they invest through the CPF investment scheme, right? Than 2.5%, right? So what would be your take on that? And how do you then manage your investment? When you say you take on market risk, like how do you do it?
So when I first started out, then I get to know about the investing. And I also want to be able to invest and make my money work hard for me. So like a lot of people, then the monkey see, monkey do, go around, listen for hot tips, ask for trusted friends. And then when they say buy, I buy. Then when they sell, they didn't tell me. I left holding the stock.
Yeah, no longer trusted friend.
So after a while, I come around to my senses that perhaps I'm not so good at trying to time the market, pick out good stocks. So I learned to be more realistic about it. And as I understand a bit more, I gravitate towards more like funds, unit trusts or exchange traded funds, and after trying a lot of thematic funds and all that, I come to the wisdom that actually you don't need to try to aim for like outperformance. You just stay invested in the market long term. You keep your costs down. The market does reward you.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Coconut Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And if you're loving what we're creating here, like, share, subscribe, share with your loved ones, comment in the comment section below. And we'll see you for great content on Chills with TFC. It is true that most of the CPF investment scheme people don't yield more than 2.5%, right?
It's quite a common global phenomenon also that individual retail investors don't do very well as compared to the market.
As the saying goes, be more active with your active income, right? Be more passive with your passive income, right? That's even you share the wisdom. Okay, great. So there are many other things that people do with CPF, right? So, like let's say today I have extra money, right? So maybe because I move out the tax bracket, right? Then I want to keep myself in the lower tax bracket, so I choose to top up CPF, right? So it's quite common. People do that all the time, right? And I think just now you were saying that you put your money in the SA account, right? You put as much as possible in SA accounts. Then what about the medical account, right? Because it also gives same interest return. There's a different utility to it, right? So how do you look at this thing? Let's say today I have surplus and then I want to manage my tax, so I decide I will top up CPF. You know, maybe you're in your 30s, so you wind back you're in your 30s. You know, you have a young kid. You know, just settle down with the family. Like, how would you then do your top up?
Yeah, you can top up your MediSave also, and it's quite as similarly attractive as the for retirement. Perhaps a tad more attractive in my view. The interest rate is the same, base rate 4%. Then you can also enjoy the extra interest. And I think between the two, I would say the SA or the RA retirement account is for long term need, especially you're young. Whilst MediSave, you do use it more frequently. You may need to use it for hospitalization or some of the medical treatment. You definitely use it for the premium payment because you have a more term need for it. Like if you need to pay for the medical expenses or definitely for the hospitalization insurance, your MediShield Life premium or the Integrated Shield premium or the CareShield Life premium or ElderShield premium. Both of them, if they get tax relief, $8,000 a year, so you can either do both ways. So it's also a good idea to top up your MediSave.
Essentially, if you put a sum in MediSave, the interest rates could potentially just pay off the premiums,
Could
right?
be, yes,
so,
yes.
so I mean, there's some discussion around this, right? Like maybe you should, especially when you're a bit younger, on the younger side, right? Then you can prioritize the top up on the medical account, right? Then you use that premium to go and pay down all the ongoing insurance interests that you have. So that then kind of solves itself as it compound, over time, but not sure can compound to the premium growth. But I think that's kind of how some people are talking about it. So it's a fair thought, you would say.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Help me understand a little bit then about how you manage your money with reference to, let's say, your property, because like you said, right, a lot of people when they look at ordinary account, the first thing is, just buy a house, right? Then the whole sum goes out and then there's accrued interest that comes back later. There's all that thing. So how did you look at, your mortgage, your property and OA, these three things, how do you put them together?
Property is actually quite a complicated thing because of course you can view it as an investment, but it can also it's also for your own stay, for a living property. And then depending on the composition of the people staying there, you have to, it's a lot of also personal preferences. So not a easy decision to make. I personally, myself, I don't like to be a landlord because there's a lot of responsibility being a landlord. But actually, I end up being a landlord for quite a number of years. Somehow, some things happen. As I grow older, I would say that I begin to appreciate the simplicity. With property, a key issue then is the loan, right? A lot of people need to take a loan, and housing rate in general is not high. And if you're an HDB flat, then you also have the choice between a HDB loan and a bank loan. And HDB loan is also formula driven, so it's been 2.6 for a long time, whilst a bank loan then moved the market. So there's also similar to what I say about OA money. You can also try to take advantage of it if the rates are low, as is currently trending right now, even below 2.5%. Even if you have the money, you can pay off the loan. You may not want to do it. If the rate is high, then you can pay off if you have a surplus money in the OA. So it's something that you can take to your advantage. This thing about accrued interest, there's a lot of hoo-ha about it. But really, end of the day, even if you have to put back the principal plus accrued interest, it's still your money. It's still in your OA. So actually, no big issue. People look at the P plus I figure and say, wow, big figure. But if you don't intend to sell the property, it's a non-issue at all. So to me, it's not a big issue at all.
To be clear, HDB loan is a one-way exit, right? Once you enter the bank loan system, you cannot come back to the HDB unless you sell the HDB, go into the next HDB, then you can take a new HDB loan, right? That's the clarity.
Correct.
Okay. So you see, there are all these complex beasts in there, is that right? A lot of holes that you gotta understand what's going on. You know, I think that's kind of why a lot of people sometimes just like shut off, right? Because there's just too many things. But I hope over time, as we talk more about it, people get like, oh, you can do this, you can do that. You know, there are interesting methodologies around this. Can you elaborate a little bit? Because I think there's also that whole interest element to if, let's say, your partner doesn't make the money, but you top it up, actually there are some advantages, especially at the lower tier of. So can you elaborate that for our audience?
The CPF, of course, have this base rate system. The ordinary account minimum 2.5%, then the other accounts minimum 4% currently, and then on top of this base rate, there's this extra interest. First $60,000, you get an extra 1% of interest. So if you just look at the let's say the special or retirement account, 4%, with the extra interest is 5% per annum risk-free. It's a very good rate. So, I mean, a general idea, without knowing the specifics of a person, if you can have $60,000 in the CPF, earning 5% per annum interest, risk-free, I think that's a wonderful idea. So that could possibly like sort of a first milestone you try to help your family members reach there, to have $60,000 in your CPF.
Maybe in the previous generation, especially important because there are a lot of single income families, right? But I think these days, very hard to have single income families. You know, most families are double income, so maybe that may not be relevant anymore. But you know, it applies similarly to your child, right? So I think that whole thing is something that people can think of, because 5% is indeed quite hard to beat in the market, right? And quote unquote risk free unless policy change. Fair statement, right? That's a fair statement. Yeah.
But apart from the actual monetary benefit, I would say what is important is help your family members, especially your children, gain financial literacy. The knowledge in itself is very valuable. If you are thinking of topping up for your children, use this as an opportunity to teach them about compound interest. That's the most important concept that we need to have when we talk about the finances.
Yes, so maybe outside of the CPF system, because it's not just everything CPF, right? CPF, if you don't top up, it's really only 20% of your income, or agak about 20% of your income. So I think some people would maybe put in another 10, 15%. They'll top up in different, because top up also not so easy. And every year only can top up how much, right? So there'll be some top ups, you know, where people will try to, you know, for lack of a better way to put this, max out whatever benefit that they can get through the CPF system. And then there will be all these other cash that you make through your income outside of CPF, right? So can you kind of share with us a little bit, how do you manage this other extra money that's not in CPF? You know, how do you do it?
In the Singapore system, then the obvious thing is the SRS, Supplementary Retirement Scheme. If you have want to save more for retirement beyond the CPF, and especially if you are in the higher income tax bracket, then SRS is something you can consider. So SRS is a tax deferral scheme, allows you to save on taxes when you contribute, but at the tail end, when we withdraw, that 50% of it is subject to tax. So for SRS, it's a bit more complicated than the CPF. You got to strategize so that at the end of it, you either pay no taxes or you minimize your taxes, then you make it more worthwhile. So I think for SRS, the key question for people who are think of it is, then do you invest your SRS in equities or in bonds? My personal view is that it's probably better to invest in bonds so that the expected return is lower. Then at the tail end, you get the tax less than the portion that you want to invest in equities. Either you invest using your cash or using your CPF.
Can you elaborate more? Because okay, I know the mechanics, right? When you exit SRS, 50% of that money that you exit every year, you have a 10-year bracket to exit.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's say in your SRS got 500,000. Okay, so every year take out 50,000. Let's say you do an equal, you know, extraction and or like the kind of exit lah. Okay, half of it, which is 25,000, will be part of your taxable income.
Yeah.
Right? Then you go through the same taxable income formula. You know, everything add together, like rents, if you have ongoing salary, everything add together, then you see which bracket you fall into,
Yep.
and then you do that, right? That's the income tax space, okay? But in your view, you would not try to max out the kind of investment potential of your SRS income? Is it why?
I will see my portfolio in totality. There's one part which is in cash, was one part in SRS, and one part in CPF. So don't compartmentalize it. Do it as a whole. Then based on your money, then of course important investment decision is your asset allocation, broadly how much in bonds, how much in equity. Then you can decide with these three sources of income of money, which one you invest in bond, which one you invest in equities. So for SRS, because it's a tax deferral, you get tax 50% of what you withdraw is at the tail end is subject to tax, and generally bonds is a low return, low risk. Equities is a high return, high risk. So it's better for the SRS to be invested in bonds so that it doesn't grow as much as if you have invested in equities. Less of it will be with tax. And of course, when you're thinking of SRS, you should try not to withdraw from the SRS until you have stopped working. Then you don't have income tax from work to add on to the base, right? Then it's, if it's only the SRS, so in an example, 50K, half of it is taxable, 25K. And in our current tax rate system, the first 20,000, the tax rate is 0. So basically, you just pay on that 5,000, tax on the 5,000. Hypothetically, had you invested in equities and it turned out that, equity does indeed give you a higher return, then you get more than 50, then you get a higher tax rate.
So your equity portfolio is in your cash pool, right? Essentially, right? Or your because CPF money is not taxable, right? So that means when it comes out, it's not subjected to any tax. Okay. And when you do those kind of like asset allocation, balance portfolio type of thing, you actually will put the bond portfolio with the SRS account because of that exit tax deferral thing. Okay. So you don't, essentially you will not invest like in a platform that just kind of balance out for you, right? In that sense, right? So like, these days, like there's so many digital platforms where they just sell you a balanced portfolio, 80-20, 60-40, 80% stocks, 20% bonds. You will avoid something like that, and you will split it up accordingly based on where the money is sitting. Is that kind of how you think about
preferences.
it? Yeah.
I would rather manage it myself.
Because it's cheaper. So as you learn how, then you realize that a lot of these broadly diversified funds, the cost to carry is very, very low, right? So if you use intermediary robo platforms, then they make the money from there, right? But of course, everybody got to make money. So ultimately, you decide how much work you want to do, right? But okay, I really like that thought. Okay, any last things you want to share with our audience, in retrospect? What would you have done differently, especially for younger professionals?
I would say when I was younger, I'm more angsty, worried, money not enough. Now with hindsight, after having made all the mistakes and perhaps with a bit of wisdom, if I look back, I think the journey has not been so scary after all. So don't need to be so gloomy. And something I said earlier, that the best investment is in financial knowledge, right, rather than jumping straight into what to buy and all that. So that's why I now spend part of my time in financial training, hoping to help other people. Recently, somebody approached me, and then I worked with the company to got a course on CPF and financial mastery, accredited with the Institute of Banking and Finance. So with that, then the course fees can be paid using a Skills Future credit.
So maybe my last question is kind of ties back to the first part where you talk about portfolio or career, right? That's also what the government is preaching these days, right? And that kind of ties into the whole like retiring, people are no longer at some point you don't work a very intense full-time career, and then maybe you will retire in a different way, or you do a portfolio career and all that, right? So maybe some wisdom for some of our, hardworking professionals when they're looking at planning a next phase of life, whether is it retirement, whether is it portfolio career, how would you kind of advise them?
The retirement means a different meaning to different people. So to me, what will be more accurate description and the context of what we are doing, right? Talking about whether you're financially ready, right? So to me, it's a more accurate call about retirement ready. Are you retirement ready? That means you can quit your full-time job if you want to. You don't want to, you can continue to work full-time if you like your job, like your colleague or whatever. You want to work part-time, you want to work freelance, you want to do volunteer work, you can, right? If you have the financial means to take care of yourself and your family for the rest of your life. That's more important. And the key thing then, of course, is that you have choices. Well, if you are not retireable, you don't have the choices. Even if you are very terribly unhappy, what to do, you still have to shoulder on, right? So I thought, to me, then it's good and important to be retirement ready as soon as possible. Then decide for yourself what is the kind of life that you want to live. And with the knowledge that you have the finances to support what you're doing. So I do a portfolio of work now. Comments you give to me was that I seem to be retired. I'm meaningfully occupied, but I'm not busy because I got to control. I got to control my timetable, I got my calendar. I can decide what to say yes to and what to say no to. I can decide to say no to Reggie if I want to.
But that's why you asked me a lot of questions, and I say yes, so thank you.
Yeah. So to me, that would be perhaps my final message. Right, get yourself financially in a position to be able to support yourself the rest of your life. That's a good state to be in. And then the choices open up. Then ask yourself, what is the life that you want? All of us have one life only. We owe it to ourselves to live the best life possible.
Great. So you're a FIRE believer. Financial independence, retire early, right? And the gist is like, how do you do it from there, right? Like, and getting into a strong financial position does give you the negotiating power, right? So however you word it, right? Because there are different people who use different language. The wisdom still lies that, you want to be able to make your own decision and, have your own choices. Then I think one of the easier ways, or quote unquote easier ways, would be to then get your finances together. Then you have bargaining chip on the table, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thank you for your time. If our audience would like to connect with you, is it LinkedIn or
through the LinkedIn? Yeah.
Okay, so LinkedIn, I'll also put the LinkedIn profile here. Yes, and I hope you learned some interesting things today. I think it's a great recap, because sometimes we talk about these things sporadically across different episodes, right? And at this point in time, I would like to welcome the HDB folks to come for our next episode. Yeah. Reply our email. We really want to talk to y'all, right? To have an extended discussion to see how we can better our society as a collective. Okay, so with that, thank you. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned for the next episode of Chills with TFC, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.